Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to a night of live streaming. We have another fun equestrian live stream ready to roll for the evening, and I see Megan is in here, so I am going to go ahead and into the live stream. So hang on a second, everybody. There's Megan.
Hey everybody, how are you? You can't hear me?
That's got a little bit of a lag bringing you online, I think. It's okay. Here we go. That sounds better. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
There, you're back at it. You're perfect again. It seems to be weird at the beginning of these live streams. So hope you're having a good week.
Great week. How about you?
I'm ready for a holiday weekend.
Yeah, it's happening.
Yeah, it's going to be probably yucky weather, but that's all right. It is what it is. So are you ready to have a good chitty chat tonight?
I'm so ready. Let's do it.
All right. So we're talking about horse shows, first horse shows.
Yay! Scary.
Yeah, well, hopefully not scary. So shall we talk about first horse shows for a horse first, or do you want to talk about a first horse show for a rider first?
Either or, doesn't matter. What do you want to talk about?
Let's go with the horse first.
All right, horses it is.
All right, so at some point everybody's got to have a first horse show, and that includes a horse, right?
Oh yeah.
So horse shows are a little different, well, for most people's barns. Little wilder, little crazier, little bit little things that they're maybe not used to seeing, flags flapping in the wind and
good stuff
around, and more dogs running around than they've probably ever seen in their life, and golf carts zooming by, and chairs, and tablecloths flapping in the wind, and tents blowing in the breeze, and everything. Chickens, skydivers, airplanes, hot air balloons. Yeah, tractors, the watering machine. How about the big watering tank going by spraying water everywhere?
It's okay.
Yeah, flags. Maybe flags flapping on a flagpole they've never seen before.
Stallions, baby strollers. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. All that, right? So before we get into it, hello everybody on the live stream. Shout out. Thank you, Gabby and Mommy. Shout out to you guys. Before I get into this, I always tend to just jump into it and forget a lot of people haven't maybe jumped into all our live streams. So there is a chat feature available. If you are logged into YouTube with your account on YouTube, you can go ahead and ask any questions you've got, and I will at some point interrupt Megan and try to interject in there with them. So, and of course, if you want to support the channel, there's a super chat available and super stickers available by the YouTube stream. And then, of course, if you are watching this after and it's not live anymore, always appreciate you watching it with the ads turned on, because that does help support the channel and help keep these live streams going as a freebie. So,
yay.
So hello, everybody. I see a bunch of people. Hi, Gabby and Mummy. Hi, Lisa Schmidt.
Hi.
So yeah, so I will, and I can, we're using StreamYard, which is a add-on program that you go through. I should say it's a separate website you go through, and it takes me into the YouTube channel, and it allows Megan and I to do this online together. So it's pretty cool. So, and I can flash up so Megan can see and everybody else can see. I can highlight, so this will be how, if you've got a question, I will highlight it so Megan can see it as well. So again, feel free to go ahead if you've got any questions, toss them out there in the chat. So first horse shows, Megan, for a horse. Now, generally, it's going to be a young horse. So this young horse, could be a 3-year-old, could be an in-hand, but we're going to talk about first under saddle, horse being ridden at a horse show.
Okay.
We'll say that the horse, maybe he's never gone to a horse show, never did the in-hand or halter stuff. So their first experience, hopefully not their first experience in the horse trailer, but we can start there.
Okay.
Maybe it's the horse is only been in a horse trailer a few times in its life, and now you're getting ready to go to a horse show. So is that a consideration that you kind of stop and think about, that, oh, maybe the horse is not a great loader or doesn't travel well, or so where does the preparation for the horse's first show start for you?
Well, I mean, every day, but for hauling, I would actually, when I have some free time, load up my horse and drive it around the block and come back, give it a carrot and put it back in its stall. I would also, we have many, many lovely neighbors. I would ask if I could come over to their farm and ride it and see how they behave, how is the trailering, how, some horses do better with a buddy. That's important too, is I have a large group, and who all gets, how we load them, who goes first, who goes last is actually really important. Some horses really hate having a horse behind them, and you really don't know until you get them in the trailer. Obviously, hauling a horse by himself may be very difficult. And so having a buddy is always helpful. So I take it all into consideration. So if I can haul them around the block with a buddy, see how they are, and then if I can, maybe 1 or 2 times, depending on how they behave at a friend's farm, I take them to a local farm and ride them.
That's awesome. So what would be the time frame that you might start doing that ahead of a horse show? We'll say you've got a horse show. We'll say today you're prepping for a young horse's first horse show, and it will be, we'll just throw a date out, July 1st.
Oh, I would start now. I would see what the availability is of my local friends, and I would probably plan on going 1 to 3 times to their farm or different farms if I can. I would also once a week maybe take them around the block just to see. But it would probably end up being every other week. That's what I would do.
Sure. Okay, so we just, at the beginning of this, we kind of talked about all the potentially frightening things that a horse could see for the very first time at a horse show. Is that something, you're kind of trying to incorporate into their daily ritual? Do you occasionally throw weird things in weird places, or?
Actually, I don't. I had a coach that did. I find at home is a safe place, and I develop that bond at home, so I don't like to throw things at them. Other trainers believe other things, and if they do, whatever you feel is going to benefit, definitely do it. But I don't. And by the time we get to the horse show, we've created a bond that horse usually focuses in on me. Obviously, it depends. And I take it a step by step. So the very first horse show that I take the horse to, I may not enter them in a class. They might actually go as a non-compete, maybe for a couple of shows. Just, if the horse is very sensitive, maybe it's very emotional, they haven't been to a horse show. And so then what I do, the first day, I always go the day before. So that way they get a chance to settle in. We can go into the arenas, we can walk around. Do you mind if I keep talking on what I do at the show, or?
Yeah, I think this is great. Okay. No, this is good.
Great. So we get there, we unload. I have a lot of people that come in my group, and I usually have, 1 to 3 horses to ride. So I would probably ride a horse that's more confident than the 3-year-old first. So that way it gives them time to settle in. If I have help, I would have someone walk the 3-year-old around. However, I really want them focused on me. So those first 1 to 3 horse shows, I'm usually the one doing all the work, whether it's walking them, lunging them, because I want them focused on me rather than handing that off to someone else. I want them to remember me from home, and I'm a good person, and I will keep them safe. So that's really important to me. So I usually will ride another horse first. They'll have like an hour and a half to 2 hours to settle in, and then I take them out. And depending on how they are, I mean, if they're nervous, I would either walk them or I'd actually just take them out, lunge them, and put them back in the stall. I wouldn't ride them. I'd just show them all the ground, see that it's just like at home, put them back in the stall, work another horse, maybe teach a few lessons, and then I'd take the horse back out again. And I go with no expectations, especially with a 3, maybe even 5-year-old, 3 to 5. And so we just go and hang out, have fun, depending on them. I'm not a treat person, but sometimes I do bring a little sugar or carrots for the young horses so that there is something positive. I take them out for grass. If they are, the other thing with young horses is, if they're a little dangerous, that's really unfair to the other competitors. It's one thing to school the young horses, but if they're acting up in the warm up, if they're wild in the lunging arena and there's other people lunging, I stop. Like, and
Sure.
again, if you're hand walking and they're wild, they're bucking, or again, I wait till it's a good time. I think that's really important too, because it isn't all about myself and my horse. There are other competitors, and for me with the young horses, all it is a fun experience. And if the horse is with me and focused, then I'll definitely show it. But again, I'm not afraid to scratch the class and just work the horse. And some horses I've actually brought out 3 times a day, whether it's lunging twice and riding once, or riding twice, and they're short. It's not like an hour. It's just 20 minutes, bring them out. Hey, this is fun. Back in the stall. So that's what I would do with the young horses.
You bring up actually a really probably important aspect of it is remembering that you're not the only horse and rider on the showgrounds, and to be respectful of others, because all it takes with a bunch of young horses is one of them getting all cranked up.
Yeah.
And you can get into a very dangerous, unsafe situation for a bunch of people.
Well, and even if the other competitors aren't on a young horse, but maybe there is someone's first horse show, or there's a young rider who maybe they're not as confident, or an adult amateur. And if you're careening around, and even myself, I've had a horse that didn't like the warm up, and now I have like PTSD. And so, you just don't know what the young horses are going to do. And it's great if you can, bronc ride and ride it out, but other people can't. And you just don't know what they're doing. It could be their first horse show. They could be totally nervous. And then you with a young horse just acting up, and you're probably not even going to ride in your class. Choose lunchtime, or, after the show, or when it's quiet, take your horses out and ride them. I think that's really important, because too, you also don't, sometimes you can't control the young horses, and as fun as it may be, you want them to have a positive experience too. So you can run into people in the warm up, so that's not fun.
Yeah, no. You talked about, stallions, and I mean, if you're on a young mare, so I know you don't generally have a ton of mares in your barn, but you certainly do have them. Is there anything that you do in consideration for a mare who might be coming into season during your first show? Or you just, it is what it is?
It is what it is. I leave them alone. I have had mares with really bad cycles, and it affected the performance so much that we thought about regimate. There, I would talk to your vet and have a conversation. You have to see how they behave. Some mares are great. I've had two really great competition mares, and they were like geldings. You had no idea when they were ever in season, and they were super. But I did have a young mare, and she was the devil. Regimate didn't help her, and
Wow.
yeah, so then I thought of other options, and actually nothing helped. So you have to take that
Wow.
into consideration. Gelding.
Well,
Nothing wrong with the gelding. And I love my mares. I love my mares, but nothing wrong with the gelding. They make life so much easier. Also thinking about like stallions and mares, you have to think about the stabling and where you're going to put them. Like when I arrive at the horse show, there are some horses that are very insecure, and I make sure that there's a horse on each side, and probably a horse that isn't going to be going out a lot on each side. So that way there's always someone there with the horse. So he's never alone. I think that's also really important. Like, you don't put him at the end. You make sure that there's two horses, or you don't put the tack stall next to him. But I've also had other horses that do better away from other horses. So I put the tack stall and then them. So you just have to take them as individuals and really plotting that out. I'm lucky because I have a big group usually, so I can move stalls within my group. It's a little bit harder when you're traveling alone.
absolutely, absolutely. Is there any situation where you have gone and done a horse show out of a trailer? I think for some people, especially young kids, maybe who are coming up, we'll say in the 4-H program, in the Pony Club program, oftentimes they haul in and haul out in one day, and there may not be a lot of options
Mm-hmm.
for actually having a stall at a horse show facility. I know when I was a kid, that was of course in the Stone Ages, but when I was a kid, everybody showed out of their horse trailer, unless, for the shows when I was a kid, for those types of shows I was doing, very much like 4-H and stuff. So any considerations there? Some people, they just had their horses in the trailer and they'd unload them to tack
Yeah.
them and go. And some of them, the horses were tied to the side of the trailer with some hay for the day. And
I wouldn't do that for the first horse show. Like I said, I would come the day before. I would ride them. I think if it's a seasoned horse and maybe even a seasoned rider, that's a great option. I used to do that as a kid as well. But if a horse is insecure or you need to step away, your only option is to tie him to the trailer or leave him in the trailer itself. I wouldn't recommend that for the first horse show.
sure. For a young horse,
For
definitely.
young horse, yeah, for sure.
So what if it's a horse that's maybe somebody's had for years, and I guess it depends on what you define a young horse, but we'll say, let's say somebody's got a 12-year-old horse and it's been somebody's personal riding horse for many years. And let's say they sold it to a young kid who's going to start taking it to horse shows. So now it's not a young horse, but it's a horse who maybe really hasn't done anything more than, at the boarding barn or at the farm where they're living, and maybe some trail riding, but not really like going anywhere.
For tying it to the
Horse,
trailer?
yeah, anything you might do different for a horse that might be a little, not necessarily be young, but is inexperienced. We'll just say it's an older horse, but it's never really done the horse show thing.
Yeah, I would treat him as a young horse because you just don't know. And I think that's the thing we don't, as riders, may understand for the horses how stressful it is. Hauling is very stressful on the horses, even if it's a short trip. And so, yeah, and you don't know how they're going to respond. They may be great, but definitely the first horse show, I would have very little expectations. I would take more time and just see how the horse responds to hauling, how it responds to a new environment, and they may just be fine. It may be totally fine. But I would always just err on caution and move slow.
So before we get into talking specifically about like a rider's first show, let's talk a little bit about what you need to consider bringing to a show. And we'll say, let's say it's a 2-day show, and let's say, you're coming in the night before. So you've got at least 2 overnights.
Yep.
So what, let's talk about what you need to bring and maybe what things people don't really think about maybe bringing.
Everything. Right? The kitchen sink. Everyone makes fun of me because I pack everything, and I usually have double or even triple.
Why?
Yeah.
Oh, why? Let's talk about why.
Well, I do also have a lot of students. However, even for myself, I pack everything because things break. There's flooding it's war out there. We joke about this, and it's, you can prepare and make a list for sure. But that's when something's going to go wrong. Like you're driving there and you're going to get a flat tire, or your alternator is going to go out. There's going to be a hole in the bucket or your muck boots. It's going to happen. You're going to the horse show. Like the week before, usually we lose a horseshoe, or something is going to happen. Like, so yeah, it's just the way it is. So I would pack 3 of everything, and I would also pack, 3 of everything. Yeah. So I have a first aid kit for horses, and I have a first aid kit for people as well in my trailer. And the other thing I do is I keep my trailer packed. I mean, some people have the luxury of having their own trailer, others don't. I have everything in Rubbermaid containers because it's going to get ruined. I used to have really nice shipping containers, but no, as much as we move and the trailer bounces everything around. So I have these great big Rubbermaid containers, and I have a first aid kit. I have, I don't know, just extra blankets because it'll snow, it'll rain, it'll be 30 degrees, there'll be flooding, and there has been a hole in my muck boots. So I literally bring 7 pairs of socks for a 2-day horse show. I mean, I'm ready. I bring raincoats, spring coat. I have every jacket, winter coat, because it's Wisconsin. I mean, we can get everything. There's umbrellas, unfortunately. Sorry, other competitors. Yeah, I'm ready. And usually with my students, there's a lot of things that you forget, and so I'm ready for them. I can't bring enough hooks, those black hooks, and that have like 5 hooks on them. I love hooks. I hang everything up, because things flood into the tack stall. You want it all hanging. You want nothing on the ground.
Absolutely.
I would make a list. You want multiple saddle pads. It's safety pins. You want to safety pin everything down because your stock tie will go. Yeah. I'm trying to think. Leg wraps, boots. We have a green bag. So, in the green bag, water, rags, someone always is carrying it. You want to bring the test book. I usually have 2 test books because one walks off. I also have a folder that has every Coggins, vaccine papers, sometimes membership forms. Now that everything's automated, they don't ask for that, but it's good to have your numbers on you. So I have that there. Multiple credit cards as well as a checkbook because usually the entry is wrong.
Usually you owe money because you didn't do it right.
You're always going to owe money. I bring hotel, the confirmation because you want to make sure that you can have a nice place to stay. Lots of shampoo. Don't forget
you have a gray horse or white.
Yes. And don't forget your underwear. I have done that. That was very unfortunate. And it actually was really funny because And I have to thank Amazon.com because I went to Dressage at Devon and got all the way there. It took 18 hours and I forgot a bra. So thank you, Amazon.com. That does happen. Again, like I've gone to a horse show and I didn't have socks, and, I pack and just keep checking. You also want to make sure you know where like the nearest Kohl's or Target or Walgreens is.
Walmart, food, anything.
Anything. Sunscreen. You want to bring sunscreen, bug repellent, you name it. It's packed in my trailer. Multiple whips, lunge line. I've forgotten that too. But now it stays permanently in the trailer. Your show coat, white gloves, and I think also what's important is to travel with a group. If you're not in a training barn, it might be best to find a group of friends and go to the horse show together, because if you do forget something, usually someone on the show team will have it and will help you. Also, showing is just a lot of work. It's a ton of work, and I feel
considering everything you are talking about packing.
Yeah, I mean, it takes days. And I think it's really good to go with a group because whether you have a great ride, a bad ride, I mean, we all celebrate, we all go out to dinner. It's so much fun to go to dinner with all of my group. There's such a neat group of people. And like I said, if someone forgets something, there's always someone who has it. There's always someone who brings snacks, drinks. Like, if I was packing, I'd forget all of that because I usually don't eat. Yeah. And so I think it's important to have snacks. You definitely want to eat. So with a group, I think it's, especially if it's your first horse show, it takes that anxiety or pressure off and everybody's helping. Someone will read your tests for you so you don't forget if you want it. Some people don't want it. But it's just so nice to have such a great group.
Definitely. I remember as a kid, it seemed like every time, and I would always go to horse shows with my horse show friends and my barn mate friends, and it never failed. Somebody would forget a piece of horse tack.
Yep.
Or something would break. Nose would break. Somebody would forget their stirrup leathers.
Yep.
Or their irons or their a girth. And I mean, it just never ended. It just so 2 or 3 of everything.
Everything.
For the horse. Feed for the horse. Extra feed for the horse in case something happens and you're stuck. Right?
Yep. That's important too. We even have a kit for the truck. However, I usually just I have a mafia that I call, a lot of friends. And I'm very fortunate that they will stop everything and come and help us. But it's good to have the flashers and the lights because usually it's going to be at dusk or dark when your alternator goes out, or it's 90 degrees and you have 4 horses in the trailer. I mean, that has happened. How are you going to get them water? That's another thing you want to pack, water. I went to a horse show where the power went out and no one could get water to their horses. And luckily I had water packed in my horse trailer so I could get them water right away. And then we could go to the gas station and get water, fill up the jug and bring it back. So, I mean, you need to be ready for anything. And yeah.
Yeah, anything and everything happens. And I remember a conversation somebody had about, a big storm came through and the tent that had all the horses, there was a tree that blew down and blew onto part of the tent. And it just never, the things that can happen will happen at some point in life. But
it's
when you forget either tack for the horse or your own riding clothes or like boots, a hard hat, maybe you forgot your hard hat, your helmet.
Yeah. It's unbelievable. And thank God to the tax stores that are going to horse shows, because I spend a lot of money with them, because I do forget things, or something breaks, or I had a great ride, or I had a not so good ride, and I need to celebrate.
Right.
The other thing, oh, you want to make sure that you have your number on the bridle. That's really important, or even have an extra number. Some shows give you 2 numbers, so you can put one on the halter and one on the bridle. There have been times that we're in the warm up and we don't catch it, and I'm riding around the arena and there's no number. I've actually only done that once, and it was at regionals, of course. And yeah, and so luckily the owner of the horse ran back and ran, because I'm always 10 minutes early. And so luckily we had enough time, and the judge waited because we were ahead of time, and I got my number and could ride. But that's the other thing that's helpful too, is writing up a schedule. So my students like to make fun of me because I make up a schedule, but I'm outnumbered. And so it helps me to know where I'm supposed to be. It also helps me because then it's written down, and they all know where they're supposed to be. So if one of my ducklings is not on schedule, the others will, help as well, because I may be coaching or on a horse and I can't keep my eyes on them at all times. And so I literally write, the time I'm going to get up, the time I'm going to leave the hotel, the time I'm going to get to the horse show. And then depending on what I'm doing with that horse or rider, I say, get ready at this time. Be walking to the warm up, because we don't figure in, it takes 2 to 5 minutes, depending on the horse show, to simply walk to the warm up. And that'll eat up your warm up time. Sometimes it seems too long, sometimes it seems too short. And then when I'm supposed to be in the warm up, and then when I actually show. So I write all of that down, and it's on the schedule. And then usually the night before, we all go out to dinner and we sit down, have a conversation, make sure my times are right on the schedule. That's really important, because times can change, and you want to check first thing in the morning. Even though, the night before, these might be your times, they may switch by the morning. So someone should go into the office and check that all the times on the schedule are right. And then we talk about who's going to read, where we're going to be, who's getting what horse ready, and away we go, and where we're supposed to be. So I actually have it all organized and planned, so that way we're kind of on top of everything.
Yeah, and things always change.
Always. You have to be very adaptable.
Yes, you do.
Yep.
So that's good information. And you talk about so how, before we get too, well, maybe this take us into, let's talk about a student or a rider's very first experience. So how do you start prepping them for their very first horse show? And it doesn't matter if they're maybe a 9-year-old child, or a 35 or a 45-year-old woman or man. A first time is a first time at a horse show for sure.
So it starts at home, and I usually have them, we kind of do a mock warm up, because actually that's the scariest, is the warm up, not the showing. And ride with multiple.
Why?
Well, I think everybody is focused on presenting their horse, and they're all in their own worlds. We all have anxiety. We all want to do well. And so we forget there are, and you never know if other people don't ride with other riders. There's another trainer that I go to multiple shows with, and usually in the warm-up, he's always running into me, and he's always like, I'm sorry, Megan, I'm sorry. I just don't ride with other people at home. That people are not looking up. They're not aware. They're thinking about their test and what's going to go right, what's going to go wrong. And so like I said before, it's not a joke. It's war. Like, you don't know what the horse is going to do, what the rider is going to do. some people, like my biggest pet peeve, honestly, it may be people walking on the rail when we're warming up in the warm up. Like if people are walking, they should be on second track, left to left. I mean, I understand when you forget, but like the people who are working should be on the outside track. The people who are just taking a break should be out of their way. That drives me insane. But,
Yeah.
you know, we all have our own pet peeves. And so like sometimes the rules of the arena don't apply. They should, but you know, people you know, it might be their first horse show or they're just so fixated on their test. And so you don't know if someone's going to run in front of you, run into you, be walking on the rail, you know, all of that is going on. And so, and you just cannot prepare for that. you just,
No.
you honestly can't. And, or when the water thing comes in, you know, you can't prepare for those things. But I do try to mock that a little bit. And I actually like, I tell people to visualize, and now here comes the tractor, you know, here it comes. And like, so we joke, but really that's what happens. And so I do that first. And then second, I actually have them dressed in their show clothes and ride because such a different feel. Because yes, we do have more modern and sportier coats, but they're still coats. They're very restricting. It's not like what we school in. It's rather stiff. It's hot, and it's good. And it's good to see that it still fits or that it fits at all because it's your first time. So I do that with everyone, young riders, older riders. Um, yeah. So, and that's how I prep them, and then off we go to the horse show, and multiple times, depending on the person. I don't like to over school the test for me personally, but I have found with a lot of my students once a week, if they ride 4 times a week, once a week riding the test, um, it's good for them. You know, it helps them feel good. And we also come up with a warm up um to help them with their nerves when we get to the horse show. Very similar warm up each day, and then hopefully when they go into the warm up arena, they don't get the deer in the headlight look. But sometimes that does happen, and you just, what they need is miles. You just need to do it. So, and then we laugh maybe by the third show about it.
For sure, for sure. So, how do you are you able to simulate, or do you even consider trying to simulate like the traffic experience, which is, you know, riding with lots of other people in the arena at the same time? You know, if you're used to kind of being one or, you know, maybe the only horse or one of two horses in an arena, a warm up arena can have a whole lot going on in it, right?
Oh yeah, no, that's what I said. We definitely do that. And I actually have, I tell one student to like walk on the rail or don't yield, you know, and kind of mock like this is maybe what happens in the warm up, and now what are you going to do? Because that can really frazzle some students if they, you know, if things aren't going right in the warm up instead of just riding, and teaching them to ride the line. You know, if you come in shoulders back and you ride your line, usually people get out of the way, or if you run into someone once, they usually stay away from you. So, but
I
yeah,
would
I,
imagine.
I definitely do a mock where there's multiple people in the arena, and I have them go a little wild and see what it's like to have another horse run into you.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. So many fun things to experience.
Yep.
So, do you go through the mental preparation and talk about that? How do you kind of prepare riders mentally for, you know, they ride their horse obviously every time they ride their horse.
Yep.
And, you know, like you said, go through and practice a test. But it's different. It's different at a horse show.
It is different. There's a multiple things that I do. The first one is I pick 3 goals for the horse show, for my riders and what they want out of their horses. And it just depends on where they are at. Like, obviously, if it's their first show, it's usually number 1 is to have fun. Um, you know, if they're struggling with circles, that they have full circle, the geometry is accurate, and then that they get their posting diagonal correct. It depends on what they are working at, and that's their 3 goals. As they start to go through the levels, obviously that changes and it gets a little harder, whether it's they're talking about their posture as a goal, whether it's talking about throughness or the horse's forward. So that way I have them focusing on 3 things, and that's it. That's where they live. Then the other aspect is I like to go through the test and at each movement tell me something that you need to do. Like, as you come into the corner, do you need to drive the horse forward? Do you need more inside leg so he doesn't fall into your corner? Or maybe you need to half out because he's running, or so we go through each movement of the test, and I have them tell me what they are doing and what they're going to focus in on during the test. And then obviously some of their homework is whether they need to, and it depends on how they learn, go through the test and have it memorized, such as like if they need a diagram and they point through, they have their diagram and then they point through the test. Some people do it that way. Some people need cones and they need to actually walk it in the arena, or they walk it at home. And then there's also a lot of visualization. So once they have ridden through the test and they've told me everything that they're going to work on per movement, I have them visualize it, like before they go to bed. And it's not just what they're doing. Do they feel wind? Do they smell the horse? Do they smell something else at the horse show? Do they feel the sun, the rain, snow? I have them visualize those things as well. So mentally to prepare.
So, we're talking specifically, obviously, about dressage. So this is riding a test. So I have, I know there are trainers who push and say, if you're going to a horse show, you need to memorize your test and you need to ride it from memory, or you shouldn't be at a horse show. And then I've had other trainers who are like, you should know your test, but, let's just take the stress out and give you a reader. And, so what is your, how do you do that? Because at some point you can't have a reader, but, and, sometimes you can. So maybe let's discuss a little bit in that regard.
For their first horse show, for any horse show, they should have the test memorized. And when we practice at home, sometimes I'm reading and sometimes I'm not reading. So also to mock, because a lot of times I talk a lot, and for those 5 minutes, that's awkward too. No one's talking to you in the show arena. And so I like to mock that as well, and not talk and not have a reader. And for me, I don't care if they have a reader. I've gone off course myself many times, and shows are a lot of money. And to have that as your low score, I think is a little harsh. Obviously at the championship, you can't have a reader. But hopefully the riders that are going to multiple shows and championships can have, they can practice that at a later date. But for their first horse show, for sure have a reader. However, I have students that having a reader drives them nuts. And so I really go with what makes the student most comfortable.
Big thank you to the Bell Vlog. I just wanted to say this is a quick shout out. Thank you to the Bell Vlog for supporting the super sticker. So big
thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt you, Megan, but I want to do and thank the Bell Vlog for their super sticker. Very much appreciated. Always appreciate.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. You got to know your test, because not only that, but you don't know if something's going to happen, and maybe the person who was planning on being your reader can't be your reader, and maybe you can't find somebody to be your reader. I can't tell you how many times where I was at a horse show and I know how to project my voice, and so I was always chosen to be a reader, and I'd be just finishing reading for, you know, one of my friends, whatever, and somebody, person coming in, oh my gosh, can you please read for me?
Right.
You know, being able to project your voice, if you don't have, you know, if it's windy, maybe the person who was planning on reading to you just cannot overcome and doesn't have a loud enough voice to overcome a 15-mile-an-hour wind whipping through there, and you're kind of going like this the whole time you're you're riding, because they don't have a strong voice. So that's where you definitely need to know your test.
Yeah, I have a funny story.
Right.
When I was a kid, I had a reader at one of my horse shows, and the reader read the test backwards. And so I did the entire trot work backwards, and the judge didn't even catch it. It just happens. And so literally the reader stopped reading because she didn't know what to do. And then and so we got through the trot work, we're in the walk work, and the judge blows the whistle and is like, you need to be here, and it was nuts. And so you really do need to know your test, and if your reader reads it wrong, it's on you. It's not your reader's fault. So that's another reason to have it memorized.
I have a good story. So I was reading for a friend of mine. It was her first show experience. The horse was seasoned, and I'm reading, and she's so nervous. And so, okay, every test enter, you know, you're going down center line, right? You know, if it's, as long as it's not a freestyle, you know, enter at whatever your test tells you, and generally you're saluting. You know, you halt somewhere, usually X. You salute. You know, it's part of the test is to salute the judge. You know, there's a whole. She stopped. You know, as enter working trot, whatever, and at X halt salute, and she halted. She didn't salute, and I'm like, I just sat and I watched and I watched and I watched, and I was like, as a reader, I said, salute, proceed. You know, you know, you're not supposed to do that, coach,
Nope.
as a reader, but I kind of was like, well, I'm going to pretend she didn't hear the salute part, and I'm going to say it again, and I'm just going to keep reading. And you could see her go, whoa. Saluted, and I think the judge was like, because they know. I mean, the judges know how nervous. They can sense how nervous you are. You know, when you ride by, you know, getting ready to go in, if you're like, you know,
they know.
Sheer terror on your face, like,
and
you know,
and they want you to do well. I mean, that's the other thing. They want you to do well. So, you know, I have a lot of riders that are nervous, and why? You know, I mean, this is supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
You know, and we all make mistakes. I mean, I've gone off course, I don't know how many times. I've had wardrobe malfunctions. You know, the arena has fallen down. I've had horses buck in a test. I mean,
oh yes,
it happens. Just have fun. Chalk it up to like, ooh, that's a funny story.
Well, so I think that's really an important thing to talk about is, and maybe the best way to talk about it is to share some funny stories. Things go wrong because people are people and horses are horses, and you got two living creatures working together, but then you have everybody else involved, and Mother Nature involved, and inanimate objects that suddenly become animated objects, like something, you know, a bag blows in the wind, and suddenly you got this bag blowing by, you know, it's a monster. And or the horse decides, oh, you know what? I don't like I was just in a warm-up arena with 10 other horses, and now I'm in here by myself. They start screaming like a banshee. Your test.
Yeah.
So you've got to have some really fantastic stories. So rated PG-13, please.
Okay. Well, I had a horse, a wonderful horse. He was afraid of other horses in the warm-up, or anywhere coming at him. And so I was at a horse show where there were 2 arenas side by side. And I had been working on his issue, you know, riding with other horses, turning him out with other horses. And so as we were riding next to each other, I'm in the show arena, the other riders in the show arena, and each time, you know, we would come next to each other, and you know, I mean, it's a good 10 feet. I could just feel him ball up, just tighten up. And I'm like, oh, we're getting to the end of the test. I'm coming around the corner and I have my last lengthening and down center line. And he and I'm like, I did it. We did it. We survived. And we go across that lengthening, and I could touch the sun. And I had it. I yelled at him, and I did not say nice things. Because I'm not afraid of using my voice in a harsh. I wasn't hitting him or anything, but I was like, ah. And the judge was like, you can't do that. Don't yell at your horse. And I'm like, yes, I can. Because it was an issue. So yeah, I let him know, and when we left the arena, he was kind of sulky and like, my mom yelled at me, because I don't normally yell at my horses. So the next show went much better. And then I've had other ones where I'm totally prepared. I'm about ready to ride a pre-St. George test. It was actually at Temple Farms. Come down center line, halt, salute, and the entire side of the arena falls over. And I'm a competitor. Like, I love when bad things happen, because I'm like, all right, I'm going to step up to it. No. They stopped the show. It took like 10 minutes. They had to put it back up. It was over. My horse and I were done. It was terrible. And then I've had others. So this is, yeah. These are the embarrassing ones where you have the wardrobe malfunction. So like I'm riding, and I have multiple wardrobe malfunctions, but the first one is, make sure you use the safety pins and you pin down your sock tie. So literally halfway through my test, and it's in my face, and I'm like, shoot. I try to get it like back in the coat, in the walk. It didn't. It was over. It was
that happens at every single horse. Somebody gets it with the stock tie, or they have the fake stock tie, which is pre-tied, velcroed around the neck,
and it comes undone,
and it suddenly flopping around
all over the place, people, all over the place. And then I've had the one where I'm in, you know, the shad belly, and my zipper unzips. That's embarrassing. And then my shirt is out and about, flapping around, and I'm like, I'm in my test, and that's all I can think about. I'm like, oh my God. And I try to like shove it back and get it all organized, and like, oh my God, this is so embarrassing. And then finally I'm just like, forget it. I'm just going to ride. Off we go. And I'm like, I'll fix it at the end. Like, that's happened too. Oh, the other thing is, when it rains, make sure you either have a second pair of gloves, or you have like the sticky gloves, because I've had that happen too, where I've been rained on in the warm-up. I didn't have a second pair, didn't know about it, go down center line. I can't hold on to my horse. You know, and can't stop them. So I've also had that happen. You name it, it happens. I've had a cat travel up a tree.
New supporter.
Yay,
thank you. Data is amazing. Thank you. Data is amazing.
Yay!
Your super sticker. So
thank you.
Big shout out. Thank you very much. Sorry to interrupt.
No problem. Yay!
So, let's see what else. So I have heard of let's see, the barn cat and the barn dog decide to get into a pissing match, and they chase each other right into the show arena in the middle of a test, or the dog, or I've heard of deer.
Actually, you know what happened to me is this might be why I don't like tying my horse to the horse trailer, but I was putting my horse in the horse trailer. We were hanging out of the trailer, and I put my horse in, and I tied her up, which I had done a million times, rather than putting her in and closing the divider. I'll never do that again. So make sure you always put them in, don't tie them, close the divider. Well, she ripped back and the divider wasn't closed, and so she ran into the show arena on this poor person and as they were showing. But not only that, she did not want to be catched. So it was a half an hour of trying to catch her. It was so embarrassing. I was a child. I was, teenager at the time. And now this showground has fencing everywhere, because at the time they were a newer show facility and there was not fencing, and it's because of that incident there is now fencing. You're welcome, guys.
So I think the best show crazy experience I've ever heard of, and I was not at this horse show, and I can't remember who told me the story, but a skydiver landed in the show arena.
I haven't had skydivers land in the show arena, but I have had skydivers. One actually got landed in the tree, like outside of the warm-up, and was stuck in the warm-up. And an ambulance had to come. And literally the announcement was, if you are uncertain on how your horse will react to an ambulance arriving with the sirens, please get off and go to the barn.
So did they stop the show for the guy in the tree? Or did the show go on?
The show went on for that one. Yeah. The show usually always goes on. Yep.
Usually, but
yeah.
I've also heard of another show facility where it wasn't too far away. There was like a small airport. We're talking like Cessnas, not like 747s, but small airplanes. And the ultralights, which is really like being strapped into a lawnmower.
Oh, yes, those are terrifying.
Yeah, and then a pair of ultralights were like, flying around, and like one of them like was having trouble and like buzzed the barn.
Oh my God.
I don't remember if it was landing in the story or if it had taken off, but it wasn't, it was either coming in too low or taking off and just not getting enough height. And it was like this ultralight buzzing over, which is terrifying.
Well, usually the airplanes are landing right above the stabling. We've had that. That's not so scary anymore. Oh, we've been in the warm-up, and there was actually a dump truck backing up.
Oh,
because it was, the warm-up was on the property line, and they were on their property, so you can't do anything.
Dump gravel?
And they dumped gravel. I literally was yelling at my student, get off, there's a dump truck.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh.
If you've never been around a dump truck when they are unloading a load of gravel or rock, it's incredibly loud. And then once they're done dumping, they have this little mechanism to vibrate the dump.
Yeah. Oh, it's terrifying.
The whole thing shakes, which is even more terrifying.
Well, and I don't know, is it the dump truck that's scary or other horses? So in the multiple shows, I think at least at every horse show, there's always someone, like there's a pasture next to the show arena, and they're either trying to get the horses or they're turning them out. I remember they thought the last rider had ridden, and the rider was going down center line, and they opened the gate, and literally 25 horses ran out in the field. And of course, the last rider was riding a stallion.
Oh my gosh.
Gone, over, done with. It was like, and the stallion was very good, but he was losing his mind. So the rider had to, dismiss himself. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I think we need to be done now before.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the other thing. Be safe. Safe is more important than anything. Like, you don't have to ride that day. It's the only thing you lose is money. Some people get so fixated on that, whether it's bad footing, or maybe your horse isn't ready, like a herd of horses comes out, or there's a dump truck. I've had where my freestyle music didn't work, and I literally went down center line 3 times. And it was the sound system. It wasn't my music. And sometimes it's the music. I mean, if it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen at a horse show, and you really should just be prepared for everything.
Or somebody's late to the horse show. They pull up close as they can to the to the actual show arena, stop, open up all the doors. There's all this banging and clanging, horses freaking out, and they unload like as close as they can to the show arena. And there's always yelling and just chaos. And
oh yeah, that happens all the time. Or the golf carts. I love the golf carts. I'm bad driving around with the golf cart too myself. I like to go fast, but it's usually back at the stable. But you got to be careful with the golf carts. You never know when they're going to pop around the corner.
At a high rate of speed with 6 dogs and 3 children and one semi quasi wannabe adult driving. It's probably a 13-year-old or something.
Oh yeah. Oh, going back to preparing mentally, there was one thing I forgot. So I am usually with a group, and if we do have a break, I take them off the show grounds. I think that's also important. Is like,
can you do that?
Can I leave?
Oh, you mean the rider? Yeah, you mean the rider.
Yeah, I don't take the horses. No. So this is only for the riders. Like, sometimes in the past we've gone to movies, we rent a boat and we go boating, shopping, just like, because you can see they're getting so anxious. And if we have like a 2-hour break, we leave. Or in some shows, like if it's Saturday, Sunday, like we're done by 2, so we feed the horses and head out, and then we come back for a night check. But I think it's good to get off the property and take a break.
Definitely, for sure. So I think it's kind of fun to tell the wild stories. So what's the largest number of rings that you've had to deal with? Would you say a Kentucky horse park, or California, Florida, Devon? You got any good Devon? Because Devon, if anybody is unfamiliar with Devon, it's the Devon Horse Showgrounds in it's Pennsylvania, I think, right?
Yeah. Yep.
It is a extremely famous showgrounds, but it is also an extremely old showgrounds. And now they've been doing a good job. They're remodeling and revamping and bringing stabling up. But talk about how you get like the unloading and the trailer parking situation, and how all that has to happen at a huge horse show like Dressage at Devon, because right?
That's a lot. I think having grooms or a friend, hire someone, because literally you have to park at the end, and the stabling is fenced off. You cannot drive your trailer. I mean, we're really lucky here in Wisconsin. We have Silverwood, we have Sorensen. We can drive our truck and trailer right up to our stabling and unload. It's like 100 feet. Like, you want to have a wheelbarrow or a nice cart to haul your stuff. After you're hauling 10 bales, I mean, you're going to be exhausted. So and it's so overwhelming. I mean, they have so many young horses, and the warm-ups are so big, and you're with in hand, you're with stallions, you're with top riders. I loved it though. I've never had a bad Devon experience. Usually it rains, but the 2 years I went, it didn't rain, or it lightly misted. And it's always been my dream to compete internationally. So like for me, I had a huge smile on my face and just felt like I belonged. Like, this is why I work so hard. And to be able to be riding with such top riders and quality horses, I mean, I just had a permanent smile. I enjoyed every minute of it. So I actually don't have any bad stories about Devon other than it was just amazing
Yeah,
to ride
that's
there.
awesome. So it's a very old showgrounds, and what I was getting at is it's in like kind of the middle of town.
It's in the middle of the city, and then parking is a pain. You know, everything at a horse show is honestly a pain. You know, you have to park a mile away, you know, where your trailer is. You have to walk a mile to unload. You know, and to walk to the warm up. I mean, it's a lot, you know, and those shows are a lot. Same thing with the Kentucky Horse Park. Love the Kentucky Horse Park. You know, they have the Rolex and the stadium, which is amazing to ride there. There's usually 3 or 4 rings there. And there's a lot of, you know, huts and foliage. You know, foliage is scary, and photographers jumping out of the foliage, which they're really not. They're just doing their job. But to a horse, it looks like it. And then out in the distance, I remember warming up in my warm up, and they have what is it? The carriages. They're doing their cross country. Oh my gosh, the horse I was riding lost her mind. You know, she thought the carriage was going to eat those horses, you know. And then depending on where you're stabled, I mean, it might be half a mile to the dressage complex. And so you have to, you know, for my scheduling, I plan on that. But are you going to walk them? Are you going to sit on them? I mean, there's trails, there's also pavement, you know. If it's a young horse, I would probably walk them. So, you know, all those things you have to think about. California, to compete at California, I competed multiple places. So Del Mar was awesome for the CDI. They had their separate warm up. And to compete with the likes of, you know, Kathleen Rain, Stephen Peters, I mean, it's pretty amazing and very intimidating. And to walk down into the stadium, their national show, their warm up is pretty small and not what I expected. And on one side it's fencing and it's just a cloth, and so there's golf carts, trailers, and horses walking up and down, and that is terrifying. And the warm up there, the competitors, they're vicious. Like, they will run into you. There's no rules of the ring. So that warm up on the national side, I did not like competing, but the CDI was pretty amazing. And the time that I was in Florida, depending on the showground, it was a great experience. I thought, just to be riding with all the caliber of riders. They have amazing footing. They have huge arenas, warm up arenas. And it's just a huge volume of great riders, average riders, and not good riders. You know, it's everybody, just like it is anywhere. So, yeah.
You know, I remember a story someone talked about at the National Horse Show, which is at the Kentucky Horse Park. You know, that is such an expansive, huge place that, you know, there can be multiple events going on at the horse park grounds. So and it's open to the public, you know, so you could have just people coming out to kind of picnic out in the fields. You can have, like you mentioned, you can have carriage driving going on in one area and, you know, dressage in another. You can have all sorts of different things. But from what I understand, I can't remember where they were showing, but some of the outdoor arenas are at different levels.
Oh yeah, it's scary. Yeah.
And they talked about like the horse seeing like a horse with just a head and no legs, like this horse and rider that had like no body because of the level, you know, off in the distance, you know, like very unsettling. And, you know, sometimes you get the public coming up and they're, you know, they mean well and they think they understand, but they don't. And they might, like, the kids might come running right up behind your young horse. And, you know, there's so much that you have to, you know, strollers and, you know, the golf cart thing we've talked about. So
And it's just mileage. And that's the game of showing. I mean, showing is really a game. Like, how do you really prepare your horse other than going to horse shows? And then how do you know how long the warm up should be? Sometimes, you warm up too much and then you don't have enough horse. Sometimes you don't warm up enough and your horse is really hot, and it's a game. It's fun, and to see if you can pull it all together and your horse is totally with you in that moment, it's so much fun.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. And some of that stuff you need to, it's going and doing it to figure out how to go and do it. Like, you might understand, well, my warm up at home, might be 15 minutes, of walking. But maybe the horse is so high at the horse show and you misjudge it. You can end up with, like you said, a really hot, or I like to call them crispy horse.
Yeah.
A spicy horse. And, it could be, sometimes it takes going to the shows to know, your horse could be absolutely down to the minute, super easy to figure out at home, but horse show, it's a total game changer. Everything could be totally different.
It is.
And so is that a discussion that you kind of have with, a rider? Like,
I do, but they don't really understand it. Most of my students say, "Oh, I remember you telling me that. Now I get it." Like, they just need to experience it. And like I said, I think being realistic and just having fun is the most important thing. I think sometimes people get too wrapped up into it, and that's when they don't perform as well, and maybe things happen, and just don't take it too seriously. I think when you just have fun, that's when you really succeed, because the horses can feel your anxiety, and they tell on us.
Absolutely. So have you ever, and do you ever consider, and do your students ever consider going just solely as a helper, so that they understand, they've never been to a horse show, they just go as that person who is going to run back to the tack stall and get, the one glove that somebody forgot to grab, got their gloves, or, so they can experience at a horse show without the stress of being there with their horse and actually showing. So they kind of see what it looks like.
No, typically my riders don't. They go head first and know it all, and then they really experience it and recalibrate.
They dive in head first, blindfolded with their arms tied behind their back.
Yep, and sink or swim. That's usually the way it goes. And usually my riders are pretty competitive and they love competing, and they just push right through.
How do you deal with somebody who overthinks everything, overstresses everything, and just has an absolute, I don't know, meltdown, or comes close to having a meltdown,
I do a couple of things. Like, obviously, I said I try to prepare them as much as possible. When they bring something up, I have a conversation with them about their insecurities. And then I try to distract them with things at the horse show, give them jobs to do, carry a bag, do this, do that. But if they really, like, I try to tell people, sportsmanship is really important. We're a team, and bad sportsmanship, there's no room for it. And if they need to cry, be ornery, whatnot, they take care of their horse first, and then they can go out to the trailer, they can get in their truck, go take a drive, whatever they need to do, come on back. But I don't feed into the meltdown. People do occasionally have meltdowns, and they got to deal with it and go deal with it. But there's no time for it at the horse show. We've all gotten bad scores. We've all done, like I said, I have embarrassing stories. whatever.
Yeah.
There's no time for it. You know, take care of your horse. We go out, you know, if they can handle it. We're all adults.
So, and a meltdown can happen in a bunch of different ways. You can have somebody that just turns into a mean, nasty person. You can have somebody that bursts into tears and is crying, or you can have somebody that just shakes in fear.
Yeah, has a panic attack. I actually had that at the horse show, and that was rather unfortunate. But you as a coach, you just deal with what they present and handle it. You know, if I have to say, I think you need to take some time apart and go to your car and wrap your head around it, go do it, and then come on back.
Well, and at the end of the day, people need to remember you can scratch your class. It's only money, but it's better to, if you are just, having a total meltdown, it's just not going to be your day. Sometimes it's better to just scratch it and not have a horrible experience in the show arena that maybe will stick with you,
Yeah, I myself, my horse was actually having a meltdown. I think it was last year. And in the warm up, I just didn't have enough time. I needed like 20 more minutes, and usually I only needed, a 20-minute warm up, and he actually needed 45. And so I asked the owner, because I didn't own him, if it was okay if I could scratch, and then I did, and I just schooled him, and I waited until he was ready, and he was just emotionally having a fit, just being and it wasn't his first horse show. There was no reason for it. And it doesn't really matter. I mean, he's a horse. They're going to do those things. And then the next day I was ready. I had a longer warm up, and I worked on the thing, and it was also horses coming at him. A few people had run into us, and he just was upset about it. And then the next day he went in for his first pre-St. George, and he rocked it. So, it's definitely okay to scratch, because I wouldn't have wanted him to have a bad experience in the show ring.
Absolutely. Well, and that's another thing, it's not only for the rider to have a bad experience, but like you're saying, you don't want to have the horse have a bad experience. I remember back many moons ago, centuries ago, in a galaxy far away, a friend of mine had a horse that had a beautiful gelding. I mean, stunning, beautiful mover, beautiful looking horse, just one of those head turners. But he had learned that when he got in the arena, like, he wouldn't get disciplined.
Yep.
You talked about this earlier, and he turned into, the term bridezilla for brides that lose their minds. He turned into Showzilla, and he would be an absolute rock star in the horse show warm-up arena. Take him into the show ring where he was alone, and he was like, I'm gonna do it. Just a jerk.
Yeah.
I don't do it. Stand on the hind legs, buck. Mm-hmm. And so what they ended up doing was finding like a small show, or maybe it was some schooling shows, and just talking to management, talking to the judge, and saying, look, we're going to ride this. It's going to be an HC test, or concourse. And I'm going to school the little bugger. And when he's naughty, I'm going to, he's going to get, he's going to get taken to task for it. And I had to do that for like a good half of a season, is just find these little schooling shows where he finally was like, oh, oh. So sometimes it's better to scratch than to ingrain that bad situation and potentially make it a bad experience for either the horse or the rider. And it's, at the end of the day, it's just money.
It's just money. Well, and I like to too. I have a lot of long-term clients, and they typically show their own horse, but I usually ask the first show or some show in the season that I actually show the horse, because I have found sometimes the horses do different things for and I'm watching them. I know the horse, but sometimes they develop patterns with their riders, and it's good to break up the pattern and see what the student is going through down center line, and not bad behavior, like we were just talking about, but just like little things and balance, and so I do find it helpful to do that. Like just the other day, I actually, with being on quarantine, I've been doing a lot of videoing of the horses, and I was like, oh, I came up with this great idea, riding through the test for my student on this horse. And I rode through the test, and I found like he was stuck in the canter. And so then I kept riding other tests with him, just because I was like, oh, I'll make a whole series of tests with this horse from first level to fourth level. And it was the same in every test. He just sucked back in the canter. So I learned something, because I don't ride him through the test. I'm not going to show him. Now my student rides the test in front of me, and I was like, wow, this is really valuable information for me as the coach. Like, wow, he really, this is a pattern. He sucks back in the canter, and that's not naughty, but you definitely don't want it in the show arena. So I found it really helpful.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, was just asking any of our we got a few people obviously watching, if there's any final questions. Is there anything, Megan? We've been kind of going a little over about an hour and 20 minutes. Any final thoughts on this? We've talked a little bit about, the first experience for the horse, a horse's first experience, kind of how you prepare them. You've talked a lot about how you prepare as far as, bring 3 of everything, be prepared that you're going to always forget something. And, that's why it's nice to have 3 of everything. And then we've talked a little bit about like a rider's first experience. Anything we missed? Any final thoughts on that? Definitely good to enjoy the funny stories.
Yeah, I think we touched all the bases, but I think bottom line, don't have expectations. Go and have fun. Don't ride for the score, and just take your time. Like if you go there and it wasn't what you expected, that's unfortunate, but just work through it and enjoy it. It's all logical, and have fun. If you can, go with a trainer who can help guide you. If you can't, go with friends. It's much more fun to do it in a group.
Oh yeah. And it inevitably, having extra hands and extra help, for anything is so important. It's just, it takes that stress level down a little bit when you've got somebody there to help you, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
One thing we haven't talked about, and you touched on it, is some coaches have incredibly high expectations for their students. We're going to horse show, and you are going to not screw it up, and you're going to get it right, because you are not going to embarrass me. How do you talk about that? Because inevitably at some point at the horse show, you kind of see that from like, at a distance, you see kind of somebody putting, and it's not always the coach. It could be the owner of the horse doing that to the trainer. You're going to show my horse and you're going to win this class. Or, it could be a parent really cranking on the kid. I paid a lot of money to get you to this horse show. You go in there, buck up, suck up, and show that horse, how do you got excellent, in my opinion, you've got a really good philosophy. Go out and have fun, realize that things happen. It doesn't always go your way, and, try to make the best out of it, right? But how do you kind of deal with, maybe there's kind of we'll call it explosion at from an exhibitor that's down the barn aisle from you, and,
Well, for those people, I don't get involved.
No, but I mean, I don't mean inserting yourself into somebody else's situation. I mean, or, somebody who maybe it's their first horse show season and it's maybe their second horse show and they've kind of seen this and the eyeballs get big and oh my God, suddenly they realize maybe because you've been very good, you kind of, told them things happen, don't worry about it. And then they see all this pressure coming from somebody and are like, ooh, wow, do I, maybe it changes their reality and suddenly they're feeling the pressure.
Yeah, I guess I have a lot of A-type students, so they do that. I don't put a lot of pressure on my students. They do that themselves. I've had to have conversations with them to tone it down. But sometimes some characters aren't going to do that. That's just what their personality is, and I just let them do their thing. Unfortunately, I think they ruin their performance when they do that. We all want to do well. I also have had clients who have put a lot of pressure on me, that I have to win a class and I, from my own experience, I know I don't need that. I put enough pressure on myself. I also know when I'm having fun and not riding for a score or trying to beat someone or win a class. That's usually when I succeed. When I focus on my 3 goals and I ride my horse, I usually do well. But then if I'm thinking about something else that I shouldn't be, that's usually when it doesn't go well. And that's the same way with the people. And you don't know that until you get to the horse show. You kind of have an idea. And so I don't think I'm a good match with those kinds of people. So, I do find with coaching, I do have to change my coaching, and I do change the tone of my voice. And some people do need to be yelled at, it's rare. But sometimes you do need to do that as a coach. It's rather unpleasant. But I will do that, and they ride better. But most people, I don't like, I'm talking in a really soft tone and they're like, why are you yelling at me? I'm like, I'm not. I'm just coaching you. I'm telling you what you need to do well. And yeah, that's it. All sorts of things happen in the coaching as well. And I think people put too much pressure on themselves, and then that's usually when the performance doesn't go as well.
Absolutely. So, and one thing we didn't talk about, you could be in a warm-up arena with 15 horses and 15 coaches yelling and screaming. Do you take a wireless?
Yeah, we have a headset. And now this year we might use the phone with the Bluetooth. And usually these days, most people do wear headsets. Some people, there's a rare few that don't, but I think everybody's wearing headsets these days.
That helps because
Huge.
15 trainers yelling over each other is difficult in a warm-up arena.
And that happened 10 years ago. It was brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. All right. Well, I thank you, everybody. Thank you to our two supporters with the super stickers. Appreciate that. The Bell vlog. Appreciate that. Our first super sticker of the night. Appreciate that support. And then, of course, we had Data is Amazing jumping in there with another super sticker. So for those of you, who maybe don't understand this is one way you can go ahead and support the channel and this live stream is. And so we very much appreciate that. And I appreciate you, Megan, as again, taking your time. So
thank you.
Any final thoughts on horse showing? I think we can wrap this up here in an hour and a half. We're doing.
Woo-hoo! Yay! I say go out, have your first horse show, and have a blast. Get out and do it. Thank you, Steph.
Get out and do it. Yeah, definitely. Thank you, everybody, for coming in. We appreciate your support. And as usual, we always say, if you think about this, you have any questions afterwards, you can Leave them down below in the comment section. This live stream will be uploaded for a permanent watch on YouTube, on the channel, on the Opinionated Horsewoman channel. So you can come back. And for those of you who are coming back here, who missed the live stream or are watching it, we thank you. And please watch it with the ads turned on and let the ads play. If you're watching this, you're coming back. Appreciate the support of the channel. Helps us do this, helps support the channel. And of course, YouTube, in order for YouTube to host this, they need to get their piece of the pie. And so that's how they do that. But again, you can always email me. My email information is on the channel, opinionatedhorsewoman@gmail.com. Megan's information is below in the description box. Your farm is, go ahead, Megan. Tell us how to email you.
Lindinhof Equine Sports Centrum. We're right near Madison, Wisconsin. Come to the website, lindinhof.com. Feel free to give me a call, 608-445-8531. Thank you.
And you are you're here on YouTube. You've got a channel on YouTube.
Yep, Lindinhof 1. We're on Facebook under Lindinhof Equine Sports Centrum. So come check us out.
You're on Instagram. You've got an Instagram.
My personal one, I do.
Oh, okay.
Not Lindinhof. Okay. I'll get on it though.
Okay. But you mentioned you are uploading some video on your YouTube channel.
Yep. We got video out there.
Yep. You spoke about going in and schooling tests. You've been publishing that a lot, right?
Yep. We have like 150 videos, whether they're sales or past shows or recent videos of me just riding tests, schooling at home. It's been a lot of fun.
Definitely. And not only are you, a horse trainer and a riding instructor, certified riding instructor, you got to show us you've got your gear on, which is great.
Got my gear. Thank you, USDF.
You do specialize in people horses, matching people with horses, and you are importing horses. You've got some horses for sale as well, so they can find all that information out. Best way, just email you, call you, shoot you a message, right?
All of the above. Yep. Texting is great. That's awesome. So however you want to contact me, feel free.
Yeah. And so, if you've got an idea, something you want us to cover as a topic in another live stream, shoot her an email, shoot me an email, leave a comment down below, send one of us a message, via Facebook or wherever. This was something, actually, tonight's topic was actually something somebody asked for. So we thought it was great, definitely a great idea. And, I think it was a good live stream,
yeah, it was great
discussion here. So thank you. Thank you, everybody who came in to watch, and thank you, Megan. And we'll get another one of these on the books or on the calendar, however you want to look at it. And we'll see everybody again, right?
Awesome. Thank you, Sevi.
All right. Have a good night, Megan.
Have a good night. Bye. Thank you, everyone.
All right. So again, thank you, everybody. Appreciate you tuning in. Again, just, any questions you got below. You can give this a thumbs up. Make sure you connect to my channel. Go ahead, and Megan's as well. Hit the subscribe button. If you click the bell, you'll be notified of all our new uploads. So thank you, everybody. We're going to go ahead and end this, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Have a good night.